Hi, this is Jack Olmsted, GMO Free News. I'm here today with William Rhoads. He's one of the students of the Virginia Tech Flint Water Study group that really broke this Flint water crisis wide open. How are you today, William?
Doing well, very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Tell us how you got involved in the class. What's your background?
So I am a civil and environmental engineer. I did my undergrad at Purdue University, and I came to Virginia Tech to work on my graduate degree. I'm working on my PhD right now with Marc Edwards and Amy Pruden, who are two professors in our department. And as part of Marc's group, when he, kind of pitched the idea for us to get involved, we were kind of all on board, and so I was part of that group, and that's how I became involved with the Flint Water Study.
Wasn't this part of a class, part of an engineering and ethics class?
So the class, yeah. So the class has been going on for several years. I think maybe 2011 was the first time that Marc taught it, and he co-taught it with a ethnographer, Jana Lambrinidou. And I took the class in 2012, actually. So I took the class in fall of 2012, and then it was last fall that the class was part, or that the Flint issue was part of the ethics class. So I was not actually in the class at that time.
So some people were in the class and some people were graduates of the class. And Marc, how did you guys all come together as the Flint Water Study team?
So Marc runs a research program at Virginia Tech that broadly looks at water quality issues in building plumbing systems. And as part of that program, he employs several graduate students, and the Flint Water Study team is mainly comprised of the people that work on his research team, rather than the people that were actually in the class. The people in the class used it as a module for learning about these types of issues, but it was really the graduate students who are part of Marc Edwards' research group that comprised the Flint Water Study team that were doing the sampling and running the website and the Facebook page and the Twitter handle and all that kind of stuff.
So you were part of the Marc Edwards research team. Were you getting paid to be part of this team?
I get paid to be in Marc's group, yes, but I get paid to do the research that my dissertation is on, and the Flint project is kind of outside that realm. So the Flint Water Study for the graduate students that were involved and Marc Edwards was all kind of a volunteer effort.
And so what was the first meeting like? What was the pitch?
So we were out at lunch.
Because you're not getting paid, this is like a pitch to like, I want you to volunteer in the study. So how does he get you to come in here as volunteer? It's outside your dissertation. You got a lot of things going on. You're a busy guy. So how does he get you to see that this is something that you need to invest your time in?
So it kind of started when Miguel del Toro, who is a EPA Region 5 employee, contacted us to run some samples, just a few samples for Leanne Walters. And so we did that, and after we did that, we kind of realized that there was a broader problem in Flint.
Can you give me a timeline in terms of dates?
So we first started talking about it as a group in kind of late July of 2015, and I think we were out to lunch with Marc in early August of 2015, and at that point he said, hey, we've run a few samples and we found extremely high levels of lead. and we have kind of identified that there may not be any corrosion control going on in the city of Flint. And at that point, he said, I think that we as a group have a lot of potential to get involved and help the people in Flint understand just what's going on with their water and whether or not it was safe to drink. And at that meeting, when we were out to lunch, he basically said, if you don't think you have time for this, then I understand. But if you want to volunteer for this, then it's going to be a volunteer effort, and we can work as a team to do it. So, who wants to help out? And at that point, we were all more or less aware of what was going on in Flint, because we had been involved with kind of helping figure out some of the background. And at that point, we all decided that it would be very, it kind of, let's see. At that point, we were all thinking, we have this ability to help, so there's no reason that we shouldn't, even if it's a few extra hours of volunteer time. That seems like a very small price to pay in terms of being able to help an entire city. So that's when that's when it was first pitched to us.
So how many people were out to lunch with you guys?
I think it was probably most of our research group. So there were probably 15 to 20 of us at any given time. We have some undergraduate researchers that help out. We've got a lot of master's and PhD students, and we also have several postdocs. So we try to schedule our lunch meetings, obviously, when people can come and we can kind of interact together, but probably not all of us were there, but most of us.
Was this like at a restaurant, or was this at like the Virginia Tech cafeteria?
No, yeah, this was at a restaurant here in town in Blacksburg.
Oh, okay.
We do pizza for our group lunches.
Everybody's up for pizza.
Yeah, more or less. We can get the vegetarian and meat monster, and everyone's happy.
Everybody's happy. Let's take a look at the very first post that was put on the Flint Water Study website.
The very first post is basically just outlining that Flint had this plan to switch to a regional pipeline along with several other cities, so that they could move away from buying Detroit water, because they felt that Detroit water was becoming too expensive for them. And so the city council had decided that that's what they should do. And the emergency manager, in the meantime, thought that they could save additional money by switching to treating the Flint River water in the few short months it's actually about 2 years before the pipeline was going to be complete. And so what we are pointing out in this first post is that when they switched to the Flint River water, they forgot to dose a corrosion inhibitor to the water, and that caused the corrosion of all of the metal plumbing materials that came into contact with that water, including the iron pipe names that the utility owns, that started to break much more frequently than they were when they were on Detroit water. And it includes also all the sources of lead, which could be a lead service line from a water main to the house, and it could also be lead that is in brass devices. So until 2014, lead could be up to 8%. Brass could be up to 8% lead by weight, and now it's 0.25% lead by weight. And lead could also come from the solder. And so we were just kind of highlighting the fact that the corrosive Flint River water could lead to high levels of lead in the tap, just as a background type of information for the beginning of our website.
So the Flint River water is corrosive. Did you do any analysis on what made the Flint river water so corrosive? Some people say it's salt. Some say it was the industry that had been dumping chemicals in the river for years and years and years. It could be agriculture. It's lined with sugar beet farms, the Flint River. Did you do any analysis in terms of what makes this river water so corrosive?
So we didn't go into the causes of what makes it corrosive, like what caused the high chloride content of the water. The only analysis that we did to determine whether the water was corrosive or not was to look at the water chemistry of the Flint River water and the water that was being distributed to Flint residents. And from there, you can look at a chemical profile of the water, and we can tell that the water would be corrosive by looking at that profile. But we didn't go into, what percentage of it is the salt from the roadways or industry or agriculture. We didn't look into any of that specifically.
So you didn't really think that was that important. You just figure we got corrosive water. We don't care how it comes to become corrosive, and that's what's flowing through our pipes. And we need to come up with they need to have a program in place to stop the corrosivity from leaching the lead from the water system.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we found out about this situation, lead in the water was our number one concern, and so that's what we focused our efforts on. I'm not going to say that the cause of the high chloride, whatever it may be in the Flint River water, isn't important. It very well may be, but our number one concern was the health of the people in Flint, and we only needed to know that the water was corrosive in order to move forward with our work on how lead would get into the water. That was our focus rather than the cause of the whole thing.
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of interesting that even we were talking February 2016, and you say that it would be important to know why the water is so corrosive, but we do not know from all the government agencies, the EPA, the MDEQ, all these engineers. They haven't come up with a chemical analysis of why the river water is so corrosive. A lot of money, a lot of interest, but still that very basic fact we haven't come up with it yet. You've got a second post here that I wanted to get to. This is the second one on the same day, on August the 23rd. You're talking about Legionnaire's disease.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is when you guys started, the very first day that you launched your website. You're talking about something which people said they were blindsided. They didn't know this was going to happen, but you guys knew about this from the get-go.
Well, we hypothesized that it might be an issue in our NSF RAPID grant that we wrote. So based on our previous research and the area of opportunistic pathogens, and in particular Legionella, is a major focus of our research group. That's what we try to figure out more about. And based on our knowledge there, we knew that if you had a corrosive water going into your water mains, then the corrosive water would cause the iron water mains to corrode, and if the iron corrodes, then the byproducts of that corrosion can react very quickly with a chlorine disinfectant residual that Detroit and Flint were using in their water. And so if you don't maintain that chlorine disinfectant residual throughout the entire system, then you have an increased opportunity for microorganisms to regrow. And Flint, when we first got involved, we knew that they had already had issues with E. coli and disinfection byproducts in the water because they were unable to maintain that chlorine in the water. So given the fact that they were unable to maintain chlorine, in addition with the fact that the iron mains were corroding, and iron is a nutrient for many bacteria, we thought, that the levels of opportunistic pathogens in the Flint River water distribution system, especially in larger buildings, could be an issue.
And it was an issue.
Yeah, it turns out, in the 2 summers that Flint was using Flint River water instead of Detroit water, there was a large increase in the number of cases of Legionnaire's disease in Genesee County. And I think right now, the overall outbreak number, like the people that were infected that they're reporting now, is among the top 5 largest outbreaks of Legionnaire's disease in history. And I think that the other 4 are related to cooling towers, which is another source, in addition to drinking water, of Legionella growing in water systems that people can be exposed to. So right now we're thinking that this is the largest outbreak of Legionnaire's disease in drinking water history.
And this is crazy. This is totally crazy because you guys have all the information. You shared that information on day 1 when you launched your website, yet there was nobody paying attention to what you were saying. Are people paying attention to what you're saying today?
We have a lot more people that are looking at our work now and using it than initially.
And I see that Marc Edwards is due to go back to Washington, D.C. to be on the super panel with the Oversight Committee in March.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we have to get to the bottom of for the people of Flint is this whole issue of how this happened and what steps are going to need to be taken in order to correct it, because we got to get moving on the solution for the people in Flint as quickly as we possibly can.
What is the solution for Flint? I know that the mayor is all gung-ho to start ripping up pipes next month. Is that the solution? I understand by doing a little bit of reading that if you go in and start ripping up pipes, then that can cause havoc with the other parts of the system, and it can then implement more lead to be leached into the system. So you can't just willy-nilly start ripping out pipes. It's got to be an orchestrated plan, and you got to understand that if you start putting new pipes in, then it could upset the equilibrium of the current system. So what is the solution?
Right. So there are several things to be thinking about here. The first is doing it right, and the first challenge to doing it right is to identify where the lead pipes are. And in Flint, there are people that are working on this right now, but right now we don't know where all the lead pipes are in Flint. So before we go ripping up the pipes, you have to identify where those lead pipes are.
Well, those are lead pipes that the city owns. How about the lead pipes in people's homes? Once you get, it from the sidewalk into the people's homes, do you know which homeowners have lead pipes?
No, and that's what they're trying to figure out right now.
I see.
But the encouraging part is that they've just done something similar in Lansing, Michigan, and the same people who are working on that, to my knowledge, are planning to help Flint with their lead pipe replacements as well. So it seems like they know what they're doing and that they can do it right. The big issue is going to be funding this, and it's kind of our concern that if they're going to be funding this and they have the time and the money to do it, just to make sure that they're not going to be taking money away from the other parts that this crisis has generated. that are going to really need a lot of money, like supporting the lead poisoned children monetarily to get them the resources that they need because for the damage that was done.
Well, I know that the group in Lansing, it's taken them 12 years to get to this point. I think they have another year. They do, what, 1-2 neighborhoods a week. That's a long time for the people of Flint to feel safe about turning on their tap and getting fresh, clean water that they can bathe in, that they can wash their dishes in, that they could possibly drink. Though I'm sure everybody in Flint from this point forward is going to protect themselves with some kind of a filter. But just to bathe and wash dishes and wash clothes, 12 years, 15 years. Lansing, what's the population of Lansing?
I don't know exactly. The comment that I would make though is that so they have switched back to the Detroit water, and so they are, while the damage to the pipes has been done and the pipes that were damaged are still damaged, it's likely that the layer that the corrosion control provides between the water and the lead has started to reestablish, if it's not already reestablished completely. And what needs to happen now is to do a full resampling that's fully compliant with the lead and copper rule to see if the lead levels are back to acceptable levels. I will say that now that Flint is back on Detroit water and has been for some time, it's likely that the water that's coming out of their taps now is okay to shower in and wash clothes in. But if you're going to drink the water, then we really, really encourage everyone that's drinking the water out of the tap to install a lead filter. And those filters will remove lead to where it is safe to drink.
Can you talk about your presentation here? I've got it up on the screen that you gave at Virginia Tech, talking about the experience, your experience on the Flint Water Study team.
So my portion of the presentation was to introduce the audience to our involvement in Flint. And so I basically went through how we got involved with sampling first Leanne Walters' home, and then the decision that we made once we saw that the politicians in Flint were being misinformed by the water experts, and that the water experts were ignoring the concerns of the Flint residents. And so I just went through about how we made that decision to get involved, and then let the rest of the team take it from there.
You got kind of choked up when you came to Leanne Walters. You've been thinking about it, talking about this, and all of a sudden it kind of hits you. Your emotions get the better of you. What was that? Yeah,
so throughout this whole project and throughout all of our work in Flint, it's been very hard to kind of deal with because so many people were affected. And that night, Leanne and her family were in the front row of the presentation, and I've got 2 twin nephews that are about the same age as Leanne's kids, and just the thought that anything like bad like this could ever happen to someone in my family, let alone any other child, is very it's very striking. And I have I'm a human, right? So I have like this emotional response, like I don't want this to happen to any other kids. So I just can't, I can't imagine what her family has gone through. And it's that like kind of gut reaction to it that would keep me involved in this as long as I need to be, in order for the people in Flint to be safe and to feel like they're safe.
over the last couple of days, miscarriages are headlines in the news now. What can you tell us about lead and miscarriages?
So I don't know the exact article that you're referring to. It's been very difficult for us to keep up with all the things released. I can tell you that some of the work that Marc did, Marc Edwards, on the lead in water in DC, he went back and was looking at miscarriage data and fertility data for the city of Washington, D.C. before, during, and after the lead and water crisis in Washington, D.C., and proved that the lead in water did lead to an increased number of fetal deaths and miscarriages. And so I don't think that the same type of result would be out of the question in Flint. But the encouraging thing, if there is one to be said, is that the lead in water in DC was for a much longer period of time than the lead in water in Flint. But that doesn't bring any justice to any miscarriages that did occur because of this.
Well, it doesn't take much lead to instigate spontaneous abortions or miscarriages, and especially if you're consuming it over a long period of time. A little for months. I think back in the 20s they had female pills that they came up with, and so they had a very small dosage of lead, and the conventional wisdom was a little bit's not going to kill you, but actually a little bit over a long period of time when you're consuming it, they suggested that the females take it 4 times a day.
Yeah,
pretty crazy. So when you have a little bit, but you're consuming it on a regular basis over a long period of time, and everybody's immune systems are different.
Yeah,
we can't all assume that everybody is in A1 shape. Some people smoke.
Yeah.
Some people have various issues. So nobody's to say that nobody was harmed or there were no miscarriages as a result. And then there's also, nobody seems to be looking at seniors. Seniors have very compromised immune systems. When you introduce lead into their systems, it goes to the liver, it goes to the vital organs. Crazy stuff. Anyway, we were on a timer today. We're a minute over. Thanks so much. Do you have any closing comments that you would like to leave me with? I'd like to invite you back again when we have a little bit more time, but for today, you have anything that you want to wrap up with?
Just that my heart and everyone that I'm involved with here at Virginia Tech, our hearts go out to the people of Flint, and we're going to continue to work as hard as we need to work in order to help them in any way that we can. And we're having conversations with the people in Flint still, and making sure that we want to make sure that their concerns are addressed.
Thank you very much, William Rhoads. He was a member of the Flint Water Study group. Thanks so much for tuning in. See you next time.